Welcome to Talent Pop Podcast, where we will provide tips and strategies for success in sales, networking, marketing, and business. We will be learning from real stories that will inspire you to unlock your potential, discover your talents, and develop the confidence to take action on your biggest dreams. We are focused on empowering women to connect their passions with their purpose to find true fulfillment. It's time to pop off, queens. Pop off, queens! Hi, this is Amanda O'Connell, your host of Talent Pop, and this is a special episode. I have two guests with me today, and we are coming up on Pride Month in June, so this is an exciting time, and also a time where I feel like we can really celebrate our individuality and just who we are. So I just have two really awesome people. We all work together at Recruiter Boom. So I have Jackson Lynn with me and Camille Platt. And we're going to talk about just some cool topics. So thank you guys both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So we do a lot of laughing here. Clearly. So if you ever feel uncomfortable, just laugh.
Yeah, okay. Wonderful.
But no, this is awesome. I'm excited because we really try to embrace like diversity and just like making the workplace comfortable for everybody. You know what I mean? And I feel like it can be difficult, but it can also be very simple. We were kind of talking about this beforehand as to how we were gonna, discuss this topic and embrace it. And I just think everyone is learning all the time. Everyone's learning, growing. The world is changing, and I just think it's important that we embrace the new. We can't think the same way as we have in the past as clients, as candidates, as workplaces. I mean, we're a growing company. We need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to be a diverse workplace and, implementing just, I guess, bringing in what you were saying before, Camille, is like being that diverse workplace so that you can bring more diversity in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you want to embellish upon that.
Sure. No, and I think a big topic that we want to talk about was like inclusivity. And so making sure that the foundation of our company and of many companies is that they are inclusive versus let's go out and find somebody and then have them teach us. Because then you end up putting a lot of work on one singular person and kind of as a token. Versus actually educating yourself, even if you're not part of a community. Because I think that's where a lot of times companies go wrong, is they don't necessarily take the time to think and really just do what can turn out to be very minimal research, and then just kind of learn from there and kind of build upon that versus, hey, let's find somebody that can teach us, and then we're going to kind of burden them with a lot of what we should be doing ourselves. And so I think that's a huge part of inclusivity, is just recognizing leaders of a company, even if they're not part of the LGBTQ plus community or a diverse community in general, that they know here's how we can educate ourselves and then be able to bring those folks in. And again, not for that education purpose, but for the purpose of just creating a better culture too.
Yeah, I think it's asking questions too, like asking your employees. Yeah. Versus being like, okay, well, we need to hit all these points, and then it's like you may completely miss the mark by being something that, like, maybe it's just over the top. You don't need to go that far. You just need to be a place that's welcoming and a place that is willing to learn. Yeah. Versus like trying to like fit a mold or try to be something that you're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, how can we attract like all these diverse people into our company, and then how can we retain them and like make them feel included? Like, how can we make our environment like mold it around them, but also how can they also fit in with us? So it's like work on both sides and not just expecting the people to change themselves into what our work culture, what our environment, and like what everyone is. Yeah.
And I think it's like looking at like, I guess who you bring, not what you identify as or whatever that may be. I just think for us, like, with our company, we just look at like good people, right? It's like people that have good attitudes. Like, we look for qualities that I think everyone can have as a whole, no matter what you identify with. And I just think it's an interesting topic. Like, sometimes I'm just like, how does this even apply to like a business setting? Like, why are we almost sitting here and like having these discussions when like it shouldn't matter? Like it doesn't matter. The only time I could see that it could matter is like for like benefits. We were talking about this a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's like making sure that you're offering the same types of benefits like within your company, or the same type of situations for everyone.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to identify as one way or the other. It's just being, inclusive.
I think something I think about a lot in terms of the community that we're a part of is kind of talking about labels and almost over-labeling in a sense. Mm-hmm. And I think talking about benefits, it kind of goes both sides of the aisle, where originally, maternity leave, paternity leave. Right. It's like, also, why is that such a strict singular label? Why is it not, parental leave? Why is it not guardian leave? Yeah. And I think it's very interesting, because I think some people view it as, well, why are we trying to, this is such a minuscule word. Why are we just trying to change the name of something when there's bigger things going on? It's like, well, it's actually not. It's actually much easier to kind of make this blanket statement so that folks, if they don't fit into a certain mold, or if they do, but they don't necessarily have a label for themselves, they can still be a part of something. Yeah. Because I think, and you had mentioned this earlier, some folks, don't know, or some folks are just going through a lot of changes and are maybe not comfortable with talking about themselves, but also maybe they don't know that they don't want to put themselves in a specific group.
And also I think it's very difficult when you like have these labels and you have to fit like a specific mold, and because kind of with that, say you don't hit all the boxes of a mold. You think, am I just an outcast? How do I feel? Like, I don't feel good about myself. Like, do I need to change myself to fit this mold now? Yeah. And so kind of just...
I think that's such a good topic, because oftentimes in workplaces you think, okay, well, they're hiring for this specific role and this is what they're looking for, and you feel the pressure regardless of anything. Like, oh, do I have to, like, what does this look like for me to fit this mold? Or even like we've talked about this before with like women in the workplace and having to feel like you're checking off all these boxes, right? You can't be too strong, but you can't be too weak, and you can't be like, and I just feel like it's a similar sort of pressure. And I just wonder, like, have you had experiences, Jackson, where you're coming into a workplace and you're kind of feeling like you need to be somebody or something? Yeah. Like, I just think it kind of covers that whole like being who you are and expressing your individualism. I just think, I wish that the entire workplace could be like that. You could just 100%. Not have to worry about that. But I guess, what's your experience?
I think maybe one of my experiences right now is just every day's a constant like work in progress. I'm still trying to figure out who I am. Like, is my voice too high? Am I using too many hand gestures? Is there too many like tonal inflections when I speak? And so kind of forcing myself to know, and then also forcing myself to kind of fit a mold that I don't even know if I fit into can be difficult. I remember when I was going through the interview process for like 5 different like
companies?
Yeah, 5 different companies last fall, and I was thinking, okay, I have to sit up straight. I have to look straight into the camera. Don't use voice. Don't speak too loud. Like, say, hi, my name's Jackson Lynn. I go to BU. Yeah. And with that, I thought, am I just dimming myself? I'm not myself. And I remember after one of my interviews, I just had a mental breakdown, and I just cried because I just thought,
oh my gosh,
I'm not myself. I don't think I can do this for 20 years, not being myself, and constantly trying to understand who I am, but also then trying to make myself feel like I'm accepted.
Yeah, it's almost like marketing. You feel like you have to market yourself in a certain way to get a job, to support yourself. Like, that's a lot of pressure. Yeah.
And then also, sometimes as a queer man, I question, will people take me less seriously because of how I speak or who I am? And
but that's not on you. Like, that's not your responsibility. I think people should show up as who they are, and if they're not accepted, that's I guess that their problem, but then it becomes your problem. Yeah. So it's like kind of this vicious cycle.
Yeah, and kind of like going into when I was interviewing for Recruiter Boom, I remember having a phone call with Kate, and it was a phone call, and I just remember, hi, yeah, this is Jackson. Who is this? Exact tone. My voice skyrocketed. I'm like, hi, I'm Jackson. You saw my resume on Handshake? Okay. And I remember kind of just when I had my phone call, then the video call, just me being myself, smiling, using my hands.
See, that's the thing that I know. When I met you, I was totally thinking, like, he has the best smile, the best energy.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't even thinking in another frame of mind.
Yeah.
Like, which is interesting. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I wonder if he, identifies. Like, I was just like, his energy, amazing. Like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
For my, like, to be around.
And I remember just going through the whole job internship search process. I was always constantly thinking about compensation and what I'd be doing, but I didn't think about work culture, inclusivity, or me just being able to be myself and wear clothes that make me feel confident.
Which is so important, though, because like we're recruiters. Like people all the time are like, oh, and I'm looking for more compensation, but it's not everything. And sometimes it's way better to be in an inclusive situation or a situation you love versus making that extra, like, what's that worth to you? You know what I mean?
It's like the whole, like, psychological, like, safety of being here outweighs everything else. And for me, coming into the office where I can just be myself, be my loud, energetic, positive self. It's
warm and hardworking.
Whenever I describe Recruiter Room to everyone in the team, I always say warm and inclusive.
Yes,
I love that.
The 2 words that always come to mind.
I love that. Well, I think this is a good segue too, like, because we were talking a little bit about allyship and what that means, and like to be an ally to the community, and like, I don't know, like I'd love for you to, Camille, to kind of like dive into like what that means.
In terms of allyship, so we were chatting about different communities and how they can show up even if they don't necessarily know or have members of the community working for them yet. And just being able to say, let's again sponsor certain organizations or nonprofits that support either gay rights or trans youth or really anything that surrounds the gambit of LGBTQ+. And then also, show up, especially here in Boston with the Pride Parade, show up in the Pride Parade. Say, hey, we're here to support you, and not make it performative. I mean, of course, in a sense, that is kind of a performance, but at the same time, it is showing out and saying, I am a partner to you all, and I'm not going to just tokenize one person here and say, let's have them do all of the work now that we have somebody. It really should be just kind of borderline foundation. Anybody who comes to join us will feel comfortable, and if they want, can, create groups or just be able to talk to anybody about their preferences or who they identify as a person. And I think it sounds so kind of, to me, when I say this, sounds so simple. Yeah. But it's so intricate. I mean, it really just does require like a very open mind from leaders. And I think that's why it's great too when, again, you're growing a company, especially like Recruiter Boom, and you already have that in your arsenal. You already know, okay, this is how I want to portray our company to folks that want to work with us or for us, and then we can just go from there and build upon that and already have that, kind of foundation. Yeah,
I definitely like that topic though, of not feeling like, you have this spokesperson that has to like always like be like, okay, well, I am the go-to person. It's like, no, we should all be able to, talk freely and support one another, and
it's not the job of the diverse person to educate everyone else. I feel like everyone should always be educating themselves. Themselves. And so it's like an endless dialogue of like, it's not always an individualistic effort, it's a collective effort. Yes. And it's okay to ask questions.
And what were you saying before, Jackson? We were kind of like talking before this podcast, is like kind of like doing the work on yourself first to be like, am I ready to accept, like, I read a lot about manifestation and things like that, but it's like, am I, as a company owner, right? Like, it's my responsibility to build a place that people want to come to work. And it's like, am I ready to be able to, be open to things? And I think people should be asking that question. It's like, well, am I in the right frame of mind? It's not like you said, it's not their job, or other people's job to come in and make it diverse, right? You have to have an open mind and be willing to be learning and growing, I think.
I think it definitely just begins with our entire team, actually, because at the end of the day, like, you're a leader, but we are all leaders individually, and because our company is still growing, a lot of our like work culture and environment and the inclusivity is upheld by each of us.
It's true. Yeah, it's not on the shoulders of one person. Yeah, totally.
And I think that like you and Will do an incredible like job of just bringing that energy into everyone and saying, you know what, we are warm, loving, and this is who we are.
And I think you bring that though.
Yes.
You actually like initiate a lot of that, and it makes us feel more. It makes me feel more. I can't speak for everybody. It makes me feel more comfortable, like knowing that you're always like you extend open arms to me, and I feel comfortable. You know.
Yeah.
And that's not. You don't have to do that, and you do, and it's just like who you are, which I think is really special.
The hugs.
The hugs. I gave you a shout out in the last podcast.
Did you?
The hugs.
Oh my god, yes,
really?
I saw.
Yes.
Oh my.
I had to.
Making me blush.
But it's like, it's that kind of energy that it's just like, people may not be used to it, but it's so refreshing. And we talk about this, like, work is, you spend so much time at work.
Yeah.
And how can you hide yourself or hide parts of your life for so long, for years?
Yeah.
You would, like, I mean, I wouldn't want that for, you know, 100%. For my teams. You know what I mean? I want people to express themselves and be who they are. I mean, I think about, it's like a silly story for me. You know, it's like I came in and I was younger and I was in my 20s and everything on my desk was pink. I was obsessed with pink.
Yeah.
Everything was pink. And I remember a manager walking over and being like, oh, like, you like pink. Like, he was kind of like, I think he was trying to be nice, but I was like, oh, am I being too over the top here? But I love colors, and that's just who I am. And I was just like, for a moment, I was like, oh, is that unprofessional?
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be so sparkly and so this. But that's why, like, I love creating like a company, right? Because I know that I can come in and people are like, oh, that's something Amanda would like, and that's you know, and it's like everyone can just be who they are and not feel like this whole concept of fitting into a mold. I hate that, because we're so unique and so individualized that, like, and that's what I love about this podcast too. Every guest that I have is somebody different, is somebody who they are. You know, you can't put somebody into a box, and you can't say like, okay, we're checking this box off now. It's like everyone's different.
Yeah. So kind of like when you were beginning this journey with like Recruiter Boom and like just starting out with Will, did you both have this mindset of, we want to be diverse, we want to be inclusive, we want this to be, or did it just happen naturally?
I think it just happened.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think because it's who we were bringing in, that I think it was like, you know, when I think about like our first hires, right? It's like their personalities were so magnetic and warm and like it was just who they are, and it's like you can't teach that. And it's the same like when we're hiring, right? It's like you can teach skills. You can educate people on X, Y, Z, but you can't change somebody to their core.
100%.
So it's like, it's super interesting. But I think it ties in well. I mean, I think we can definitely, like, we can all learn. We can all grow. Yeah. That's something companies can do. And I think companies are doing. I think we're moving in a really good direction. And we were just talking about this before too. It's like how things have changed over the years. Like, where companies are now, and like in terms of being progressive and being different. Than, you know, it's way different than it was back then, 20 years ago. I mean, it was like, you know, that oftentimes it was like clocking in and clocking out, and it's like, okay, you can go home and be who you want to be.
Yeah.
Don't be that at work.
Right.
You know.
Right. No,
but,
it's true.
What's your experience, Camille? Like, is there anything that comes to mind for you?
I mean, I think what's interesting is, like, because so much has changed, and I think it's so much for the better. I think really larger organizations, I think for them it's a little bit harder just because they're a little bit more ingrained.
That's so true.
And they have leaders that maybe aren't as open and accepting.
They could be afraid.
And they could be afraid too.
Because they don't want to lose their jobs or put themselves out there. I think that's a huge...
I think that's a big part of it, is just kind of...
fear.
Yes, because I think there's so many societal pressures that cause certain people to act out in certain ways, even if they don't mean it internally. I think a lot about that with folks that maybe there's a lot of folks in my professional network that recently maybe have found themselves, in their 40s or in their 50s, and it's such a huge moment. And then they kind of reflect on, wow, for the last few years, I've just hidden myself because, and not even in the sense of like hiding, but I've just been a different person professionally because this is what I was told to do, even if I wasn't told directly. It's what I saw around me. And that's why a company culture is so important, especially for younger professionals, because like a first internship or a first job kind of frames, at least for me, it really framed how the next experiences would be and like how I can act. And I think it's always really important that what I would have liked to have known coming out of college or high school is like, that first internship, that first job you have, just full send, be yourself, and see what happens. Because it could really show you that people are accepting and they want you to be who you are, because it not just diversifies in that very physical, tangible sense, but it diversifies in terms of the people you bring in and how, like, the warmth and positive energy. Because that's just something I think, too, that you can't, like you were saying, you can't teach. And to kind of tie it back into recruiting a little bit, it's so interesting, people that in my experience of being a recruiter, so many folks I talk to where I'm like, this person is amazing. Their personality, their energy, what they want to do, their passion is there, but maybe they don't have that skill connected. But what I love is being maybe, that representative on the client side saying, I fully back this person, and I know this person would be a good fit. And that's where I think a company like Recruiter Boom and other agencies that kind of allow the folks that work there to kind of run with it a little bit, and be confident in terms of confidence in the actual job they do, in the sense of, I'm a recruiter and I know that this person is great and I want to push them to get into this job, or just the confidence of coming into work every day and being yourself. Because I think that's really, really, that was really hard for me to find. But just because I think, again, certain conversations about the community, it doesn't come up all the time, especially in organizations that don't have a strong presence in that community. It can feel a little kind of, if I want to bring this up, it's going to be very forced. And folks will kind of look at me as and again, we mentioned this earlier on the podcast, that's the full of who I am, and it's not true. There's so much going on. That's why just opening up conversations is so important. And just being able to talk about someone's past and who someone is without any judgment. I think that's also just a huge foundational piece. But then also with being able to ask questions, like you said. I mean, sometimes I think sometimes people are afraid to ask questions, and it's like, no, that's how we learn. And that's sometimes how I learned about myself. I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to answer that. I'm going to look into that. Maybe it's something that I need to know more about too,
100%.
Questions.
I was like, what was I going to say?
Definitely asking questions.
100%. Because sometimes it can be difficult to find, like, figures within the who you can, like, go to that, like, ask about these things, because it's not really talked about. You're typically tend to force to learn about it through, like, media, or just by trial and error, just going through your own experiences. And sometimes that can also be very difficult and painful in doing so.
Yeah, because you're putting yourself out there. And, but I guess we all kind of do in a way. I think you either go out there and you shine your best light and live. I would rather, I guess, I could say this, because maybe I don't have to worry as much as somebody else, but it's like, I would rather go out there and shine my best light. And know that I did that versus, like, hide myself forever. But it's hard. It's hard to 100%. Say that. You can say that, but then, like, you don't have to necessarily deal with the pushback.
Talking about being an outlet to within a company or an organization that you join, I think it's always so important to be able to have folks, even in a professional environment, like we're talking about, to be able to come to about, maybe things going on at home or personal pieces, so that you don't feel alone when you're there, and that you can open up. And I think that's kind of where leaders come in, and it can trickle down. As long as leaders are open and say, listen, if there's anything ever going on, please come to us. It trickles down into managers and directors, and I think that helps to make an inclusive environment where folks can come in and be very open about what's going on with them.
Definitely.
And still be able to work, because now, perfect, I've been able to get this off my chest and feel accepted, and now I'm able to, now I feel comfortable here. I can actually do the work that I'm here to do.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy, because I think it's tough sometimes, because everyone's human, everyone has stuff going on, and everyone deals with issues, right? But it's like, you can't bottle that up inside, because that's not healthy.
Right.
But I love that you said that whole concept of having an outlet, or having that manager, that go-to person that you can talk to about, and then everyone's on the same page. Everyone's like, okay, this person, and then the manager, then it's up to the manager to say, you know what, do you need to take the rest of the day? Like, go ahead, like I say give your people what they need, because they will come back refreshed, and they will feel better, and they will probably want to stay long term if it's going to be like that safe, that safe environment.
Exactly. Yeah, cool. the retention piece, and again, that's for anybody, part of any community, any group.
Totally.
That's just a a really blanket statement, I feel too. 100%.
Yeah, that supportive environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, this is great. I love that quote. What was that quote that I had to write down, because I really liked it? It was about, the diversity.
Oh, yeah. Diversity is who we are, and inclusivity is what we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's so important. It's not just to say, we have X, Y, Z. Oh, yes. Yeah. But it's really living it, and implementing some of the strategies like Camille was talking about, and all of us having these different experiences, and learning through all of this, and working with different companies, big or small. Yeah. Like, there are ways that we can, there's no excuses. Yeah. I think there are definitely, things we can implement, and and even looking at some of these organizations, and how can we be an ally, and all these really important things.
Yeah, exactly. I remember one thing I would always ask in my interviews was, how the company was committed to honoring the diverse backgrounds of their employees and their clients.
It's a great question.
Yeah, and I thought that really just goes to show of before, businesses were all about making money, but now it's also about having a social impact and environmental impact, and how can we leave people feeling great.
Yes. Totally. Yes. And people over profit. I feel like if you take care of your people, the profit will come. Yes. It's not the other way around. No. Yeah. Because people need to be happy. Yeah. Happy on their day-to-day work experience. Yeah.
Yes. Seriously. Because that's what Recruiter Boom lives, I feel like, is really and this is just the truth, is just the positive energy, and the ability to just be able to be yourself and talk about anything you need to talk about, and still be able to have those wins, and everybody supports those wins, and a lot of those wins are monetary. Yeah. But you don't even really think about it. You just think of, wow, I found a great job for this person. Everybody that I work with internally is excited. They're excited. My client's excited. And it's so cyclical like that. Yeah. And that's so important, much more so than just thinking about money and just come into work every day and do what you need to do and don't talk. That's not success, I think. I
know, we're big on kind of that manifestation and the energy. That's something I think we've learned, and we've really adapted over time. But I really we were talking about this earlier too, that concept of adaptability, and that's I don't know, it's always growing and changing, and it's I
think that. And to talk about being comfortable and secure with yourself, that's how you're able to be adaptable, is if you're comfortable with this is who I am as a person, but I can adapt to any conversation because I always know my core values. Yes. That's easy. You can always, there's always that sense of just comfort, even when you're chatting with someone and maybe that they're being very bubbly with me, and that's awesome, but we come from very different backgrounds, but that person might still leave feeling saying that was just such an enjoyable conversation. I really want to work with them, even though we're so different, but our energy levels matched, or just finding that connection, I
Yeah.
think. Because I think recruiting and hospitality, at least for me, has helped so much with
Yes.
just being able to
100%.
adapt to anybody.
It's true.
Good, bad, any different background. And I think that's always something that I'm constantly working on too, and it's constantly changing. But I really like kind of that subject about adaptability, especially
Yeah.
within recruiting.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure. I know, because we do talk to so many different types of people, and you never know who you're going to talk to next.
Yes.
It's always a mystery.
Exactly, and it's fun.
It is.
And that's what makes it so great, is that you can constantly educate yourself just by doing your job.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so rewarding about doing it, is it's not just, okay, I'm going to educate myself outside of work to be able to come into work and be that inclusive person, but it's also, anyone I'm talking to, I'm learning from them too in the
Definitely.
process.
We do
Definitely
it subconsciously.
Yes.
It's not always an active thing that we think about.
Yes.
It happens in our day-to-day interactions. And
That's
just
a good point.
Sharing, hearing stories, just getting to know
It's
someone
like
else.
it's like traveling, right?
Yeah.
It's like through osmosis, you're like, oh wow, I have a new experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just natural. But yeah.
I love that.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. This has been a really awesome, enlightening, and beautiful conversation. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Of course.
This is wonderful.
All right. Well, pop off, queens.
Bye.
Oh,